If you're still using random cards and Block Tales, you're basically throwing fights on purpose. These are the meta builds that will change everything. Today, I'm breaking down the absolute best builds for every playstyle. From the sword build that melts bosses in seconds, to the tank setup that makes you literally unkillable, plus the support build that carries entire teams, and so much more. Stick around because build number 7 is so broken, most players don't even know it exists. Drop a comment with your current build. I bet half of you are missing the most important cards. What if I told you there's a Slingshot build in Block Tales that can consistently deal 11 to 12 damage and completely bypasses enemy defense mechanics that stop other builds cold? While most players dismiss the Slingshot as the weakest weapon in the game, I've analyzed the mathematical optimization that transforms it into a defense-shredding powerhouse. In this video, I'm going to expose the exact Slingshot build that mathematically dominates armored enemies, reveal the specific card combinations that create devastating 11 to 12 damage output while ignoring traditional weaknesses, and show you the advanced power shot mechanics that make this the ultimate anti-defense strategy in Block Tales, including how it deals 10 damage even against heavily shielded enemies. But first, let me show you why the Slingshot is universally underestimated by competitive players. Most people see the weapon dealing 1 damage per pellet with no defense penetration and immediately write it off as completely inferior to sword and ball builds. After analyzing the mathematical potential hidden within Slingshot mechanics and card synergies, I discovered that everyone's been approaching this weapon completely wrong. The key isn't trying to match raw damage, it's exploiting unique advantages that no other weapon can replicate against specific enemy types. Here's what makes this build absolutely game-changing when you analyze the core mechanics and optimization potential. The foundation consists of 8 essential cards that create multiplicative damage, scaling through calculated synergies. Power shot cards are the crucial optimization element most players miss entirely. 2 power shot cards convert all Slingshot pellet damage into a single concentrated attack, allowing it to bypass defense completely while combining all individual pellet damage into one devastating hit. Night cards provide the backbone damage multiplication. 4 night cards increase sword slot damage by 4, and since Slingshot replaces the sword slot, these bonuses apply directly to Slingshot base damage. This creates a +4 damage foundation before any other multipliers. Charge cards apply attack up level 2 for massive damage scaling. 3 charge cards create attack up level 6, adding +6 damage to your attack. Combined with the Night Foundation, this creates substantial base damage before other modifiers. Power Rush provides +1 attack when HP drops to 25% or below. With Slingshot's multiplicative scaling, every single damage point becomes exponentially more valuable than on other weapons. Anti-Up adds +1 damage to all attacks but creates the familiar 50% action window reduction with 0 damage. This high-risk, high-reward mechanism separates skilled players from casual users. The mathematical progression transforms Slingshot from multiple 1 damage pellets into a concentrated 11 to 12 damage attack that bypasses all defense mechanics. But here's where the calculations become absolutely devastating. Let me break down the exact mathematical formula that produces this build's revolutionary anti-armor capabilities. When you run the optimization calculations, the defense penetration advantage is staggering. Base Slingshot mechanics fire multiple pellets based on charge level, up to 5 pellets with Iron Sword upgrade. Each pellet normally deals 1 damage, but can't penetrate defense at all. This makes basic Slingshot completely useless against armored enemies. Power shot cards fundamentally transform this weakness into the weapon's greatest strength. Instead of 5 separate 1 damage hits that bounce off armor, Power Shot combines them into one 5 damage attack that penetrates defense completely. Night cards boost this combined damage significantly. 4 night cards add +4 to the base combined damage, creating 9 damage before other multipliers. 3 charge cards add attack up level 6 for +6 more damage, reaching 15 damage potential. Power Rush, when HP is low, adds +1, bringing the theoretical maximum to 16 damage. Anti-Up provides +1 more for 17 damage potential under perfect conditions. However, realistic combat scenarios with proper optimization yield consistent 11 to 12 damage output that completely ignores enemy defense values. Against enemies with 3+ defense that stop other builds entirely, this Slingshot build maintains full damage effectiveness. The free ice interaction creates additional tactical advantages. Since Power Shot converts multiple pellets into one attack, free ice applies frozen with much higher success rates compared to individual pellet attempts. This mathematical transformation turns the worst weapon into the ultimate anti-defense specialist. The real optimization comes from understanding the advanced tactical applications. After testing every possible combat scenario, the Slingshot build offers strategic advantages that become exponentially more valuable as enemy armor increases throughout game progression. Target selection capabilities provide tactical flexibility no other weapon can match. While sword attacks can only hit the frontmost enemy, Slingshot builds can target any enemy position, including backline threats that hide behind armored tanks. Defense immunity scaling creates scenarios where Slingshot builds excel exponentially. Against enemies with 1 to 2 defense, other builds remain competitive. Against enemies with 3+ defense, Slingshot builds maintain full effectiveness while other weapons become severely handicapped. The Power Shot concentration mechanic eliminates the traditional Slingshot weakness against armored enemies while preserving all the weapon's natural advantages. You maintain target selection, range capabilities, and consistent damage output without the defense vulnerability. It's a fact that action command optimization synergizes perfectly with anti-up requirements. Slingshot timing involves rapid button presses rather than precise windows, making it more forgiving for players adapting to anti-up's reduced timing requirements. SP cost efficiency analysis reveals Slingshot builds achieve superior damage per resource ratios against armored targets. While other builds require expensive armor penetration cards, Slingshot builds solve defense through weapon mechanics rather than additional card investment. Resource allocation flexibility allows hybrid utility integration. Since the core damage comes from weapon mechanics and basic cards, you have BP available for utility cards, defensive options, or status effect applications. But there's an advanced optimization technique that pushes this build into completely broken territory. When you analyze the deeper mechanical interactions, there are optimization strategies that transform Slingshot builds from good into completely dominant against specific enemy archetypes. Power rush timing becomes a calculated armor-breaking strategy. Maintaining 25% HP or below provides sustained +1 damage that becomes increasingly valuable as baseline damage increases. The risk-reward calculation strongly favors skilled players against heavily armored targets. Free ice optimization creates guaranteed crowd control against defense-heavy enemies. Since Power Shot converts multiple attempts into one concentrated attack, free ice applications have much higher success rates. This allows you to freeze dangerous armored threats while dealing full damage simultaneously. Night card stacking creates exponential scaling advantages. Each additional night card provides +1 damage that applies to the final concentrated attack. This creates linear damage increases that become multiplicatively powerful when combined with charge buffs. Anti-up integration with Slingshot mechanics creates what I call precision concentration scaling. The rapid press action command requirement trains mechanical consistency that translates to higher anti-up success rates across all weapons. Charge card timing optimization requires strategic SP management similar to other builds, but the payoff becomes exponentially more valuable against armored enemies where other builds fail completely. The meta positioning analysis reveals where this build completely dominates competitive scenarios. When you compare this optimized Slingshot build against established meta strategies using armor scaling analysis, it achieves complete superiority in scenarios where traditional builds become ineffective. What if I told you there's a rocket launcher build in Block Tales that can transform the weakest weapon in the game from 1 base damage into a devastating 7 damage powerhouse? While 99% of players dismiss the launcher as completely useless, I've discovered the mathematical optimization that turns this underdog into a legitimate meta contender. In this video, I'm going to expose the exact rocket launcher build that salvages this overlooked weapon from complete irrelevance, reveal the specific card combinations that multiply its damage output by 700%, and show you the advanced splash damage mechanics that make this build surprisingly effective against groups, proving that even the most underestimated weapons can dominate with proper optimization. But first, let me show you why the rocket launcher is universally considered the worst weapon in Block Tales. Most players see the pathetic 1 base damage, compare it to sword and ball builds, and immediately write it off as worthless. The community consensus is that launcher is completely outclassed by every other option. After analyzing the mathematical potential hidden within this weapon's mechanics, I discovered that everyone's been approaching launcher builds completely wrong. The key isn't competing with other weapons directly, it's exploiting unique synergies that no other weapon can achieve. Here's what makes this build absolutely revolutionary when you analyze the core damage multiplication mechanics. The foundation consists of 5 essential cards that create exponential damage scaling from the launcher's minimal base stats. Power Rush provides +1 attack when HP drops to 25% or below. While most builds use this as a secondary bonus, launcher builds make this a core damage component due to the weapon's low base damage requiring every possible multiplier. Charge cards apply attack up level 2 for 3 SP. With the launcher's low base damage, these multipliers become proportionally more impactful than on higher damage weapons. The mathematical scaling effect is dramatically amplified. Each baller card increases ball slot damage by 1, and since launcher replaces the ball slot, these bonuses apply directly to launcher damage. 4 baller cards provide +4 damage, a 400% increase over base launcher damage. Anti-up adds +1 damage to all attacks, but reduces action window timing by 50%. With launchers already challenging timing requirements, this creates a high-skill, high-reward optimization scenario. The mathematical progression transforms launcher from 1 base damage into a completely different weapon category. But here's where the calculations become absolutely game-changing. Let me break down the exact mathematical formula that produces this build's shocking damage transformation. When you run the optimization calculations, the multiplicative scaling is staggering. Base launcher damage starts at 1. With Hyperball upgrade, this increases to 2. 4 baller cards add +4 damage, bringing the total to 6. Charge cards apply attack up level 2, adding +2 damage for a total of 8. Power Rush when HP is low adds another +1, reaching 9 damage potential. Anti-up provides +1 more, bringing the theoretical maximum to 10 damage per shot. However, the consistent damage output settles at 7 damage when accounting for realistic combat scenarios without perfect setup conditions. This represents a 700% increase over the launcher's base 1 damage. To put this in perspective, you're dealing damage equivalent to optimized sword builds while maintaining launcher's unique advantages. Splash damage to adjacent enemies, defense down level 1 application, and defense penetration that ignores 1 armor naturally. The splash damage calculation adds another layer of effectiveness. Adjacent enemies take base launcher damage -1, meaning 6 splash damage to surrounding targets when your main hit deals 7. This mathematical transformation completely changes the launcher's role from support weapon to legitimate DPS option. The real optimization comes from understanding the advanced mechanical synergies. After testing every possible weapon combination, the rocket launcher build offers strategic advantages that no other optimized build can replicate through pure mathematical analysis. Splash damage mechanics create multi-target elimination scenarios where launcher builds excel. While single-target builds require multiple turns to clear enemy groups, launcher builds deal 7 damage to the primary target plus 6 splash damage to adjacent enemies simultaneously. Defense down level 1 application occurs regardless of damage dealt, meaning even if armor reduces your damage output, you're still applying a debuff that benefits subsequent attacks. This creates sustainable armor breaking capabilities that compound over multiple turns. Defense penetration ignoring 1 armor provides consistent damage output against moderately armored enemies. Combined with defense down application, launcher builds can systematically dismantle high defense targets that stall other weapon types. The action command failure mechanics actually benefit skilled players. Missing launcher timing deals 0 damage, creating a natural skill gate that separates optimized users from casual players. This high-risk, high-reward scenario rewards mechanical precision. SP cost efficiency analysis reveals launcher builds achieve superior damage per resource ratios compared to other weapons when fighting groups. The splash damage distribution creates effective multi-target DPS that justifies the SP investment for charge cards. But there's an advanced optimization technique that pushes this build beyond standard meta expectations. When you analyze the deeper strategic applications, there are optimization techniques that transform launcher builds from decent into genuinely competitive with top-tier strategies. The anti-up integration with launcher timing creates what I call precision cascade scaling. Players who master both the reduced anti-up window and launcher's inherent timing requirements develop mechanical skills that translate to higher damage consistency across all weapons. The baller synergy optimization allows hybrid tactical approaches. Since baller cards disable the ball slot to boost launcher damage, you're essentially trading ball utility for launcher specialization. This creates dedicated launcher builds with maximum damage potential. Charge card timing optimization requires strategic SP allocation. Unlike other builds that can afford to miss charge timing occasionally, launcher builds depend on these multipliers for viability. This creates resource management requirements that separate amateur from expert optimization. Against 3+ enemy encounters, launcher splash damage often outperforms single target builds in total damage output and battlefield control. The analysis proves this launcher build transforms a universally dismissed weapon into a genuinely viable meta option. What if I told you there's a hidden build in Block Tales that can deal 6 to 7 damage per turn without breaking a sweat? While everyone's stuck grinding with basic sword combos doing 3 to 4 damage, I've discovered something that completely changes the game's combat meta. In this video, I'm going to expose the exact Super Ball build that's been secretly dominating the Block Tales meta, reveal the specific card combinations that turn your humble ball into a devastating weapon of mass destruction, and show you the advanced techniques that separate the pros from the amateurs, including how to counter spiky enemies that normally hard counter ball builds. But first, let me show you why 99% of players are completely sleeping on ball builds. What they don't realize is that with the right card synergies, this becomes the highest DPS strategy in the entire game. After analyzing every possible card combination and running the numbers on damage calculations, the results were shocking. This build consistently outperforms every other strategy when optimized correctly. Here's what makes this build absolutely broken when you analyze the core card synergies. The foundation consists of 4 essential components that create devastating damage multipliers. First, you need baller cards, maximum of 4 copies. Each baller card increases your ball slot damage by 1, but disables your sword slot completely. Most players see this trade-off as negative. The math proves it's actually the key to unlocking insane damage potential. Next, Power Rush. This single card increases attack power by 1 when your HP drops to 25% or below. While most players avoid low HP situations, this card turns that vulnerability into a significant damage advantage. Then you need Cannonball. Get 2 copies if possible. These make your ball completely immune to spiky and flaming enemies, which eliminates the primary weakness that counters ball builds. Finally, you need 3 charge cards. These apply attack up level 2 to your next attack for 3 SP each. When stacked properly, the damage multipliers become absolutely ridiculous. But here's where the calculations get completely insane. Let me break down the exact numbers that make this build completely broken. When you run the mathematical analysis, the damage potential is staggering. Baseball damage starts at 2. With Baller cards equipped, each one adds +1 damage to your ball slot. That's a potential +4 damage right there, bringing your base to 6 damage. Now here's where it gets spicy. Charge cards apply attack up level 2, which adds +2 damage per card. With 3 charge cards stacked, that's attack up level 6, adding +6 damage to your next attack. So we're looking at 6 base damage plus 6 from charges equals 12 damage. Add Power Rush when your HP is low for another +1, bringing us to 13 damage potential. Perfect action command timing adds another +1, reaching a theoretical maximum of 14 damage on a single attack. But even without perfect conditions, this build consistently delivers 6 to 7 damage per hit, which is absolutely game-breaking when you consider most enemies have 8 to 12 HP total. This damage output completely destroys any other build strategy when you compare the numbers side by side. The real game changer comes from the optional cards that multiply this effectiveness even further. After testing every possible card combination, certain optional cards create synergies that transform this from a great build into an unstoppable force. Minimize applies small, reducing enemy attack by 2 for 3 turns. This isn't just about damage, you're simultaneously neutering enemy offense while maintaining your devastating attack power. Line Bounce and Comatose are where the math gets absolutely wild. With proper action command timing, this hits all enemies in battle. The damage calculation becomes your full ball damage multiplied by the number of enemies. Against 4 enemies, you're dealing 24 to 28 total damage in a single turn. Softener applies defense down level 2 for 3 turns. When you analyze armor mechanics, this card makes even the highest defense enemies vulnerable to your attacks. The status effect cards create additional tactical advantages. Fireball applies burn level 1 for 3 turns for guaranteed damage over time. Snowball has freeze potential for crowd control. Daze applies dizzy level 1 for 4 turns, disrupting enemy patterns. These optional cards don't just add damage, they create a complete combat solution with answers to every defensive strategy enemies can use. But there's an advanced optimization technique that most players completely miss. When you analyze the deeper mechanics, there are optimization strategies that dramatically increase this build's effectiveness. Power rush timing becomes a calculated risk-reward scenario. Instead of healing immediately at low HP, you maintain that 25% threshold to keep the +1 damage bonus active. The math shows this sustained damage increase outweighs the safety of higher HP. Status effect stacking creates multiplicative advantages. Combining burn, freeze, and small effects means enemies are taking damage over time, potentially stunned, and hitting for reduced damage simultaneously. You've mathematically neutralized threats while setting up devastating combos. SP management requires strategic resource allocation. This build is SP intensive, but the damage per SP ratio is superior to other strategies when calculated properly. You front load SP costs for massive damage spikes that end fights quickly. Cannonball mechanics completely change the ball versus spiky enemy equation. Traditional ball builds fail against spiky enemies due to damage reflection. With Cannonball immunity, you can attack any enemy type without penalty, eliminating build counters entirely. The optimization data shows this build has mathematical superiority in almost every combat scenario. When you analyze this build against traditional meta strategies, it dominates across every meaningful metric. Versus sword builds, higher damage output, better crowd control, immunity to spiky counters. Sword builds cap around 4 to 5 damage consistently. This build delivers 6 to 7 minimum. Versus slingshot builds, similar range advantages but superior damage and status effects. Slingshot builds rely on defense penetration. This build simply overpowers defenses entirely. Versus hybrid builds. Other combinations sacrifice specialization for versatility. This build achieves both maximum damage and tactical flexibility through status effects. The counter-analysis reveals why this build is so dominant. Spiky enemies that counter most ball strategies. Cannonball immunity eliminates the threat. High defense enemies, Softener reduces their armor to nothing. Enemy swarms, Line Bounce hits everything simultaneously. Even SP limitations become manageable when you calculate the damage per resource ratios. You spend more SP per turn, but end fights faster, resulting in better overall efficiency. This build has mathematical advantages against every traditional counter strategy while maintaining superior damage output in standard scenarios. The only limitation is proper card acquisition and BP allocation optimization. What if I told you there's a sword build in Block Tales that can consistently deal 11 to 12 DPS and take down 1/3 of the Cruel King's HP in a single attack? While most players are stuck with basic 3 to 4 damage combos, I've analyzed the mathematical optimization that turns the humble sword into an absolute game-breaking weapon. In this video, I'm going to reveal the exact sword build that mathematically dominates Block Tales combat, break down the specific card combinations that create this devastating 11 to 12 DPS output, and show you the advanced synergies that make this the most reliable high-damage strategy in the entire game, including how it compares to every other meta build. But first, let me show you why sword builds are completely underestimated by the majority of players. Most people see the basic sword doing 2 to 3 damage and think it's inferior to flashier ball or launcher strategies. The mathematical analysis proves they're completely wrong. After running damage calculations across every possible card combination, the sword build consistently outperforms other strategies in sustained DPS while maintaining superior reliability and resource efficiency. Here's what makes this build absolutely broken when you analyze the core optimization mechanics. The foundation consists of 7 essential cards that create multiplicative damage bonuses through calculated synergies. Knight is the cornerstone card. It increases sword slot damage by 1, but disables the ball slot completely. Most players see this trade-off as limiting. The math proves it's actually the key to unlocking the sword's true damage potential. Power Rush provides a crucial +1 attack bonus when HP drops to 25% or below. While most builds avoid low HP scenarios, this card turns that vulnerability into a significant mathematical advantage. Anti-Up adds +1 damage to all attacks, but reduces the action command window by 50%. Missing the timing results in 0 damage. This high-risk, high-reward mechanic separates optimal players from casual users. Free Ice provides Enchant, Ice for your next attack at 1 SP cost, applying Frozen level 1 for 3 turns. This isn't just about status effects, it's about guaranteed tactical control. Power Stab delivers an extra +1 damage compared to basic sword attacks with a reduced action window. Missing deals 2 damage, hitting deals 3 damage, plus all additional modifiers. The charge cards apply attack up level 2 for 3 SP each. With proper stacking, this creates the multiplicative damage that makes 11 to 12 DPS possible. But here's where the calculations become absolutely devastating. Let me break down the exact mathematical formula that produces this build's game-breaking damage output. When you run the optimization analysis, the numbers are staggering. Base sword damage starts at 2, Knight adds +1, bringing it to 3. Power Stab provides another +1 for perfect timing, reaching 4 base damage. Anti-Up adds +1 more, totaling 5 damage before multipliers. Now here's where it gets absolutely insane. Charge cards apply attack up level 2, adding +2 damage per card. With 3 charge cards stacked, that's attack up level 6, adding +6 damage to your attack. We're looking at 5 base damage plus 6 from charges equals 11 damage. Add Power Rush when your HP is low for +1, bringing the theoretical maximum to 12 damage per hit. Perfect action command timing with sword attacks provides an additional +1 damage, but with Anti-Up equipped, missing means 0 damage. This creates a calculated risk-reward scenario where skilled players achieve 11 to 12 DPS consistently. To put this in perspective, this single attack deals approximately 1/3 of the Cruel King's total 30 HP. You're potentially 3-shotting one of the most challenging bosses in the game. This damage output mathematically surpasses every other build strategy when comparing sustained DPS ratios. The real optimization comes from understanding the advanced synergy mechanics. After testing every possible combination, the strategic depth of this build extends far beyond raw damage calculations. Free Ice provides Enchant Ice, applying Frozen level 1 for 3 turns when your next attack hits. This isn't just crowd control, it's mathematical damage amplification. Frozen enemies take additional damage when the effect wears off, creating delayed damage bonuses. The Anti-Up timing requirement creates a skill-based optimization curve. Free point of damage just for using the card, making it an incredible tool for this build. Finally, your finishing move is the Power Stab card. This is the high damage single target sword attack you'll use after your buffs are stacked and ready to go. So how do you put it all together? First, you get your HP low by letting an enemy hit you until your health is 5 or below. This activates Power Rush. Second, stack 3 charge cards to multiply your damage to its maximum potential. Third, use Free Ice to add that hidden +1 damage buff. Finally, unleash Power Stab. If done correctly, you will hit for 11 or 12 damage, enough to destroy most enemies in the game. But this build has a weakness, so what do you do against an enemy with a shield? Shielded enemies can stop a Power Stab cold, rendering your entire setup useless. That's when you switch to the Slingshot build. The card loadout is nearly identical. You'll still use Knight, Power Rush, Anti-Up, and 3 charges. The key difference is swapping your finisher Power Stab for the Power Shot card. Power Shot is a special Slingshot attack that is designed to pierce through enemy defense and shields. It's your direct answer to armored and shielded enemies. While a sword attack might do 0 damage, Power Shot will always get through. You can buy buy this from the Banished Knight in the manor for 200 ticks. Using the same buffing strategy, a fully charged power shot can deal 10 damage through a shield, making it the perfect counter move. Finally, what if you're facing a huge mob of enemies? For that, you need AoE. The rocket launcher, while weak on its own with only 2 base damage, becomes a room-clearing weapon with just 1 charge card. A single charged rocket can hit an entire group of enemies for 7 damage each, wiping out weaker mobs instantly and making it the most efficient tool for group encounters. The developers have confirmed that new enemies, new equipment, and new sword upgrades are coming in Demo 5. Having these builds mastered means you will be ready to take on new challenges from day one. This damage stacking strategy is universal, and by collecting these cards now, you guarantee you'll be powerful enough to explore all the new content and get the best cards right away. You now have the ultimate offense, but that's only half the battle. All this damage is useless if you can't survive long enough to deal it. The most important skill in Block Tales isn't attacking, it's defending. There's a secret to blocking every single attack in the game, and I break it down completely in the video on the screen right now. Click it and I'll see you there.